So let's review the UI challenge. This is mostly about flex and grid, layout, and also animations, even though I don't think today you got any questions about animations. But anyway, so let's talk about layouting. So question number one, that was quite simple, right? Considering that's an intermediate question. So you got the layout of 2 columns, and then some colors, some spacing. The exercise is inviting you to use grid. We may be tempted to use flex, but just considering the gap between the boxes, I think grid will work perfectly. So first things first, I'm gonna create a surrounding div. Yeah, remember guys, when you open a tag, you should close it, right, Elena? Right. All right, and now I'm gonna write some elements. So div grid, and then something like that. Div can be very tricky. I believe I'm gonna need to add some styles, colors, and things like that. So let me add some classes. Guys, can you tell me a good name for the parent class? Container, yeah. I would like to say wrapper as well. That's not very relevant. And that will be item, yeah, fantastic, yeah. Like that. So grid can be very tricky. So grid can be very tricky. I'm not gonna disagree on that. So let's talk a bit about CSS container. We know we need to use grid, right? So display grid. That's the first thing. Visually speaking, we got 2 columns. That's not gonna change on tablet, so we don't need to look after media queries or anything like that. Anything about that? So let's keep it simple. So guys, how can I set up 2 columns on my layout? Grid template columns, that's correct. And then something like 1FR, 1FR. Yeah. There is a different way to do that, which is repeat 2, 1FR. So this is some sort of for loop or for each. Yeah? It's the same thing. And then we need some gap, right, between my boxes. So what's the gap? The gap between them is set to 10 pixels. So how do I set the space between my boxes, guys? Fantastic, Lauren. Grid gap, 10 pixels. So now let's pay attention to the children level, yeah, to the item, each item. So in each item, first of all, the colors, right? That's always the easiest thing to deal with. Background color, what color is that? Green, no, lime. Find an internal gather of 20 pixels, an internal gather of 20 pixels. So how do we set up an internal gather, guys? Padding, that's correct. Padding 20 pixels. The padding is the same on each side of the box, so let's keep it simple. And then we should change the text, the color text to black, right? So color black. Anything else, guys, I'm missing? That's it. All right, let's run it. See if it works or not. Confetti or not confetti. Here we go. All right. So that's the way it works, right? You can see the example is quite simple. As soon as we realize that we should use grid and with some special column treatment, and that's pretty much it. So, do you have any questions? All right. So let's have a look to what you proposed. So max container item. Guys, should we use single quotes or double quotes here? Double quotes, Max, that's correct. I'm not sure if at the moment the platform is throwing any warning about that. I'm not sure. We need to review the rules, but definitely, according to Airbnb standards, we should use double quotes. Yeah? All good apart from that. What about Lauren? Oh yeah, it's not a bad thing. I find that that's maybe a bit unnecessary, right? Because the code is pretty simple. Is your code more readable than Max? I don't necessarily think so, right? So yeah, but apart from that, yeah, pretty much the same thing. All good. And now look, Vicky, look at, yes, you see, Vicky could have won the challenge, but she lost many valuable points because of silly details. Yeah. So yeah, indentation, Vicky here. And then look, Vicky, You got an empty line. Yeah. So you may be thinking these details are stupid, but the thing is, when you send a test to a company, or when you do a pairing exercise with an employer, and you do these tiny mistakes, thing is, overall, that gives not such a positive impression to the employer. So it's very important. I know that's not going to make any difference. I know the code is going to work, but that's the difference between being a good developer and a fantastic developer. So make sure, guys. Yeah, but so the thing is, yeah, go for it. Yeah. No, no, no. No, wait, Max. I don't think that's fully correct. So I'll tell you something. If you get the answer right, but you got some elegance warnings, if you fix the warnings before you submit the question, you don't get any penalty. So the penalties are only evaluated when you click on the blue submit button. Before you click on the submit button, you can try as many times as you want. No, if you test, but the answer is right, you don't get any penalty on the accuracy. You get penalty on the accuracy if it fails. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct, Elena. That's correct. Yeah? Cool. And Elena, yeah, perfect. I cannot spot any single problem here, so that's literally perfect. All right, so let's look to question. You see, so now, I as soon as I click on the submit button, I need to test again because I changed something. As soon as I click on the submit button, then now the platform is gonna check the elegance of your code. All right, so question number 2. But it's pretty much the same thing, right? So in this occasion, we got 3 columns. I mean, I'm gonna use grid again. And the main reason why I'm gonna use grid is to simplify the process of dealing with that external gutter separating my columns. Yeah? Just because of that reason, grid is going to work better than flex. So the HTML bit is pretty much the same thing. So class equals container, here you go. And then you close the div. So now div class equal item. And then you close it. And then the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? By the way, guys, talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you check on the video tutorial section of the platform, you will find out a workshop called React the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where I talk about patterns and anti-patterns using React. We presented that last year in a couple of places in London. And actually, that was, according to meetup.com, the most popular coding meetup in 2019 in the UK. So yeah, I was quite popular. So I would like to invite you to watch that session because you can discover. I'm sure you know some of this. For instance, especially talking about anti-patterns, I know you know some of these things. But you know, if you learn something new, I think that will essentially pay off. All right, so we got container height 30%, and then what else? Let me read the instructions. Display 3 characters, 3 columns. All right, so of course, display grid before I forget, right? Display grid. What about columns, guys? What should I type here? Grid template, columns. And then I can do either 1FR, 1FR, 1FR. So I got the 3 fragments, or repeat 3, 1FR. That's pretty much the same thing. Height 30%, fine. Separated by 10 pixels, so you know we need to use grid gap. Pixels. And then what else? Anything else? Colors, things like that? Guys, am I missing anything here? Color, I don't think so, because white, I think this is the default color. Yeah, but that's a really good argument. Elena, you don't know the default color, right, of the platform, so that's fine. You can always explicitly set it to white. That's pretty much it. The thing is, if the instructions don't say anything about the color, then the message is you don't need to worry about that, right? All right, let's test it and see if it works or not. So testing, here we go, confetti time. That was quite simple, guys, probably even simpler than the previous question. Anything else? Any questions? No, easy peasy, right? So let me check what you've done. Max, again, remember double quotes. Interesting. Interesting. He's using flex instead of grid. That's interesting. That's interesting. And that's fine. Yeah, listen, I have nothing against that. But it's interesting because that proves that in reality the code gets a bit more complicated. Look. So what he does is he's applying a margin right on all the item, but because we don't want the margin right on the last item, we need a special CSS rule to undo that. Yeah. So on the last item, Max is reverting the margin. So he's setting the margin to 0. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But I hope you agree that the code, it's a bit simpler using grid than flex because you don't need to look after this kind of oddities. Yeah. All good for Lauren and for Vicky, apart from the indentation problems. Wait, look at what Vicky did. So she followed a different technique. So she's using flex. You see, the thing is, guys, if you use flex, you need to play around hacks. Yeah. So Max, for instance, play with some hacks at the CSS level. Vicky plays some hacks with CSS and HTML level. So Vicky added a new class, item 2, which doesn't tell me much. But the thing is, if you check the CSS, you see, so she's not applying any margin to any element apart from the second one. So on the second element, she's writing a margin on the left and then a margin on the right. But then what happened if we got 4 columns? So you see, eventually, Vicky, that approach is gonna cause you problems, right? So I think we need to find out a cleaner alternative in the long term. And for Elena, using grid, so yeah, all good. All right, guys, so unless you got any other questions, I don't think so. So let's jump to the third one. Responsive grid layout. That's pretty similar to the first question. However, the main difference here is, suddenly the layout will change depending on the device we are using. Yeah? So on mobile, we got 2 columns. However, on tablet, we got 1 column. I hope no one has used flex to solve that problem, because with flex, that's going to be a nightmare again. But we'll see how relatively simple the problem is using grid. So you see, even though in many occasions I could use flex or grid, long term, I used to be tempted to use grid unless I have a good reason to use flex. So div class containers, I'm going to reuse the semantics that you have proposed earlier on. Div class item, and then I close the div, and then let's play with some numbers, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that should be it regarding the HTML. And now let's pay attention to the CSS. So first of all, as usual, container, display, grid. And now, guys, what about the grid template columns? Should we focus on mobile or tablet first? So you tablet first. All right, I'm not against that. However, guys, do you remember that thing about mobile first development? You should ask yourselves, where are your customers using your platform? Yeah? So how are they interacting with your system? So Rafa will talk about Google Analytics, and Google Analytics will give you some metrics about which percent of users are using mobile, which percent of users are using tablet. So unless you have a good reason, and that could be valid, of course, I believe that in reality, 95% of the online web apps, they got more customers on mobile than on tablet. And because of that, I'm going to run this code in following mobile first development. And mobile first development means my first priority is mobile, as you can see, and then we'll see what else we need to do to satisfy the appetite of the tablets. Yeah? All right, so I got the container, fine. Guys, I think someone has wrote something on the chat, so I'm not sure if anyone can read the message for me. So really? So is it working for everyone else? So then, if it's working, if it's fine with everyone else, Maxim, please refresh the session, and I will. If I need to accept you, I will accept you again. All right. So that's the container. On the item, we need some colors, right? So as you can see, I'm not necessarily following a sequential order. I'm starting with the basics of the exercise. So for instance, the background color, right? So background color. What's the background color? It's what is that? Maroon, right? Maroon. Cool. And then some pixels handling. So they got every single internal and external getter. Internal and external means, first of all, padding 10 pixels. On the container, we need a grid gap of, again, 10 pixels. 10 pixels. The font size is expected to be 25 pixels. Fine. Font size 25 pixels. And then align the text to the middle. How can we align the text to the middle in CSS, guys? Text align center. Yeah, careful, don't get confused with middle. Then what else? Now let's talk about the particularities. The event columns are 2 times as large as the other one, so we sorted that out. And now if the screen, blah, 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 and now the tablet case, should be wrong. Yeah. So if I run that, I hope at least mobile is fine, even though tablet is going to be wrong. Actually, mobile is wrong. Look, you see, guys, look at the silly typo. Yeah, I type a colon rather than a semicolon by accident. Yeah, but guys, you see that the syntax highlighting should help you a bit to realize that there is something wrong here. Yeah, because all the values are typed in white color. However, that value is in yellow. It's like something doesn't satisfy the standard, right? So if I change to the semicolon, you see solution is correct on mobile, but however, of course, tablet is wrong. So we need a media query to deal with tablet. So remember, guys, to write a media query, I need to type something like media, and then the resolution. So min width 500 pixels. You see, I set up min width because I want that rule to apply only if the resolution of my screen is at least 500 pixels. Yeah? So now I can go back to the container, and then I can change the grid template columns. Yeah. So what the hell I'm doing? So grid template columns is gonna look a bit different on tablet. So how is that gonna be? 1 fragment, 2 fragments, 1 fragment, 2 fragments, 1 fragment. So can anyone tell me how many fragments our row has in tablet mode? 7, that's correct. 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1. 7 in total. Yeah? And that should be it. Let's see if it works. Awesome. Yeah, that works fine. Questions? That's a good question. Yes, so you may find out only, I don't remember the syntax or something like that. only screen, and well, something like that. Yeah. So if you do that, that means that media query will only apply when you maybe that's something I don't remember. When you visualize the content in a web page in your screen. Yeah, that's why it's called a screen. And then you may be thinking, all right, but is there any other option apart from visualizing my content on the screen? Can anyone think about any different way of consuming your app beyond the scope of the screen? No? What if I do Command P in my computer? Yeah, I can print the page, right? So you can set whether your media query will apply in the paper somehow, right? Based on some conditions that you can specify here. So that's the main reason, yeah? So if you want to have a special handling for paper versus the screen, then you can do only screen, right? Unless you have a good reason for that, I don't care, historically speaking, about printing web apps. But hey, maybe you are building an app that requires printing, right? In that case, you may care about that. Any questions? No? All right, so let me have a quick look to your code. So what you did here is question number 3. Here I am. I'm pretty sure everyone did the same thing. You can see Max is doing tablet first development, which is fine. Same for Lauren. And Vicky is doing mobile first. And then Elena is doing tablet first. Yeah, all good. I mean, I'll tell you something. It is hard to be creative in this kind of question, yeah, because there is a single easy way to solve them. It's not like dealing with advanced JavaScript questions. You can just find filter reviews. Yeah, you can actually have some creativity. Here it's a bit more challenging, of course. All right, question number 4. Things start getting tough here. Yeah. So the first 3 questions were quite simple. Question number 4, it's way more complicated. Why? Well, because first of all, we need to deal with something new called grid template areas, whatever that means. I'll tell you something, guys. I think I have changed that question earlier on a bit. I think I have changed that to height. I don't know why this is still. I'll have a look later on, right? But I think I have changed the default code a bit to simplify it. It shouldn't make any difference, but just in case. I think the code is a bit easier to deal with if we set up a default height of 250 pixels. So let me focus on the HTML first, and then we'll go through all the details. So div class container. You see the HTML part is always quite simple, right? Because that's pretty much the same thing again and again. So div class item, and then some text, like was in this occasion I centered. And now the problem starts with the CSS. First of all, we are using grid here. However, the exercise is not giving us any default, not curved grid. Yeah, not grid. Sorry, guys. Display grid. Yeah, that's the first thing. And then look. Let's try to understand that grid template columns repeat. Yeah, so we got 3 columns. However, we got only one element. You see, we got a single item, but we got 3 columns. Thanks to that rule, which is pretty cool, we never talked about that before. So with grid, you can set up some areas. And that's a very useful way to, for instance, have empty columns. You see? I got 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, but I don't want to display any content on the first column, and I don't want to display any content on the last column. So what you can do is, hey, I got 3 columns, fine, and what content do I have on each column? On the first one, I got a dot. A dot means nothing, I don't care. The second column will be assigned to an element called center box. We'll see how to refer to it in a minute. Finally, on the last column, we got nothing again. So let's play a bit with the item. So first of all, colors, right? Background color 30 pixels, and then not background, that's stupid, right? Background color olive. I was mixing things a bit, right? It was 30 pixels, that's the internal gutter, so that's the padding, 30 pixels. So now, look, we got a grid area called center box. So the way we can associate, we can, link that item with that grid area is by typing grid area and then the name of the area, center box, without any quotes. Yeah? So now, whenever we display the container, it will put on the first column nothing, on the second column whatever center box is, the item, and on the third column nothing. Yeah? So that's the way it works. I don't think that's going to work yet. However, let's see what we get if we evaluate that code. Look, we're not that close. You see, we're not that close. We got 3 columns. You see, the first one empty, the second one our item, and the third one empty. That's fine. It looks like, before going into any complexity, that the code should be centered. So remember, guys, to center the text, you should type text align center. And now the main issue is the box, the olive box, fills all the vertical height of the parent, which is 250 pixels. I don't want to do that. I want to display that box in the middle. The way to do that in grid is by using a property called align self equals center. So if you put align self center, the item will be displayed in the middle rather than filling all the vertical space of the parent. And then you see it works. That's one of the most challenging questions on the intermediate program. Yeah? But the main thing here is to understand what grid template areas does and what align self does. So, questions? Yeah, so grid template areas specify, you got, Maxim, how many fragments the container has? 3 fragments, correct? So thanks to grid template areas, you can customize where these columns, where these fragments are going to be displayed. So in this occasion, I said, all right, I got 3 fragments. The first one is going to be empty. You see the hole on the left-hand side? The last one is going to be empty too. You see the hole on the right-hand side. And then the one in the middle is going to be something called center box. And what center box is? Center box is an element that has the grid area property set to center box. Okay? So for instance, if I now let me try to do something. I'm just playing around. If I move center box to the left, you see, it won't work, of course, but now I'm moving my box to the left. You see, I got my box on the left and then 2 empty fragments on the right. Likewise, if I move my box to the right, I will have the 2 empty fragments on the left, and then as you can see, pop pop, I got my box on the right. Yep. Any other questions, guys? That's right. No. All right. So let me check your code. Yep. So Max did essentially the same thing I did. Same thing for loading. I mean, once again, it is very difficult to do something exotic here, right? Unless you do something very dirty with, I don't know, with 45 pixels, things like that. So yeah, you don't, Vicky, place self. You don't really place self. Place self. Oh, never seen that. Place self. So you're using place self instead of align self. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know. I never seen that. So CSS, grid, play self versus align self. I don't know. That's something that we can obviously investigate later on, right? Play self, align self. Says both. Ah, I see, I see. So play self is a shortcut. Play self is a property shorthand of align self and justify self. So it looks like it's a bit more powerful towards aligning the box both horizontally and vertically. Well, whatever. Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, play self. That's something I learned today. Cool. Awesome, guys. And now let's have a look to the last one. Top, middle, and bottom. That question, if you didn't manage to solve it, you'll find out it's actually easier. It's actually easier than it seems, right? So first of all, again, I mean, the HTML is a copy paste all the time, right? Container, and then div, and then div plus. I got 3 items. Item top. And then I got another item called middle, and then a final one called bottom. Yep. So on the container, I'm gonna use, in this occasion, I'm gonna use flex. Why I'm gonna use flex? Because the exercise tells nothing about having 30 or 25 or 10 pixels separating the boxes. Yeah? There is no reason why I should care about a specific gutter separating my boxes. So I'm gonna try with flex to see if it works. Let's see what happens if I test it. That's not gonna work, obviously, but I want to get an approach, right? All right, so I got my 3 boxes. Fair enough. Let me try to use flex 1. Do you remember flex 1, guys? To make sure that all the boxes have the same width. That's not gonna work neither, but hey, at least as you can see, now the 3 boxes, so if you pay attention to the vertical axis, the 3 boxes have the same width. So that's fine. I'm gonna change, guys, now the height of the container to 100%. Why? Because if I do that, hopefully the boxes will get, look, all the vertical width in my screen. You see, I'm getting close. You see, I'm getting close because now the only thing I need to do is to play with the alignment of each box, of each column. The alignment of the top column, the alignment of the middle column, and the alignment of the bottom column. Because I will need to introduce special CSS rules on each box. That means I'm gonna need special CSS classes. So look, I'm gonna add another class name to each HTML element, top, middle, and bottom. So now I can do item.top, and I can play with the alignment of the first red box. To play with alignment, once again, as we've seen before, I can just align self. And now because we are using flex instead of grid, we need to play with a different value. So does anyone know in flex how to align an element to the very beginning? Flex start, fantastic, flex start. Okay. Let's see if at least the first box is correct. Look, you see, the first one is perfect. So let's focus on the second one, item.middle. That's gonna be even easier. So how do you align something to the middle, guys? Using flex. Center, that's correct. That's correct. Center, so now, look, you see, the first and the second are right. So now, finally, we need to look after the bottom one. That is gonna be very similar to the first one. Instead of flex start, align self, it's gonna be flex end. And that should be it. As you can see, we got confetti time. So you see, the exercise wasn't that complicated. It's all about setting flex, ensuring the container fills all the available height of the screen, and then playing with align self to distribute the boxes across either top, center, or bottom position. Any questions? No? All right, so let me check what you've done. So Max, he did pretty much the same thing. That's literally the same thing, so all good. Lauren, that's again the same. No, sorry. Lauren did something very different. Okay, that's interesting. Let's try to understand what Lauren did. Because you see, Lauren is using grid. I really like that, guys, because then you can compare how to solve the problem using flex. That's what Max did, and how to solve the problem using grid. And if you ignore the HTML part, if you focus on the CSS bit, looks pretty similar, right? So, for instance, what Lauren did is grid template columns, so she set up 3 columns, and then that's a bit strange. Align self flex start. All right. So even if we are using grid, we can also use align self flex start and align self flex end. That's interesting. I didn't know that. It feels a bit odd to me. That's very personal. Yeah, don't take that seriously, because we're using grid, but then we use flex to align things. I don't know. That's a bit mind-blowing. But that is it's very interesting. It's very interesting to see that we can solve the problem in a very similar way using grid. In this occasion, Lauren has to explicitly set up the list of columns, while Max doesn't have to do that because he's using flex. So flex will allocate all the columns in the same container, in the same row. That's interesting. Then Vicky is doing the same thing as Lauren, and Elena is using the same thing as Max. So that's interesting, guys, because you can see different ways of solving the other way around. Well, exactly, yeah. The only thing I'm gonna complain a bit about both Vicky and Elena, I'm gonna complain about 2 different things. Actually, no, it's actually I'm going to talk about 1 thing on Elena and 2 things about Vicky. So look, what happened, Elena, if someone else declares a class top? You see, so you are contaminating, if you accept the expression, the global styles of the app. Yeah, and Vicky has done the thing. What happens if someone declares an element with class item 1? However, look at what both Max and Lauren did. You see, they are namespacing the CSS. So even if someone else declares a class name top somewhere else, Max's styles are not gonna contaminate what someone else does, right? So that's a better way to namespace, to keep the scope of your CSS under control. So that's the first thing. And about Vicky, there is something else I don't like. Item 1, item 2, item 3 tells me nothing about the semantics. What if I want to reuse item 1 somewhere else? Yeah? Or what if I want to change the order? I want to display the first element at the bottom and the last one on top. I will put item 3 on the first one, item 1 on the last one. It's going to be confusing. I think it is much better to be semantics driven. Top, middle, and bottom. That gives you an idea about what that rule is going to do. All right, and guys, I think that's pretty much it. Do you have any final thoughts? No? All right. If you got any questions about HTML CSS, let me know on the Slack, and I'll try to support you. That was it from my side, guys. Please bear in mind that I've sent you a message on the Slack to do a quick demo this evening. So we have another workshop, by the way, right at 12 in half an hour. But before I forget, I would like to invite you to do a 30 minutes catch-up this afternoon with people from Pusher. They're going to do some just technical tests just to make sure everything works fine, blah, blah, blah. But it would be great if you could attend it. And then I may present some questions we're going to deal with this afternoon. So that, you can take that as an opportunity to warm up a bit about the style of the questions that I'm gonna deal with this afternoon. Cool. Yeah, Vicky. Yeah. Yes. I have no idea. Vicky, sorry, can you start again? Because I have no idea what you are talking about, I'm afraid. Yes. I'm all right. Let's wait. Vicky, wait. Let's do something. This is the Coding platform, so let's go mobile and let's see what's going on. All right, so let me check something. So I played mobile in a second. All right, so give me a second. Sorry, it's a bit slow. All right, so that's very slow. That's the Coding platform, yeah. And then what else? The menu, yeah. So you is the question about how to animate the menu, Vicky? Slightly. What do you mean slightly nice on the right? I don't get that. Slow motion, but this is because of the animation type we are using. So here we are using ease. Do you remember, guys? Ease versus linear. So if you do the animation type ease, it will actually you can check that on DevTools, Vicky. I'm sure somewhere animation menu, not here, somewhere animation box, maybe here, you'll find out the animation type. I know, and that's not good, right? But that's what they told you, that's a bad thing. I'm not defending that the code is perfect, right? That's why sometimes real life code is not what we present in the workshops. Animation. I don't know where can you find that, Vicky, but I cannot see what you are telling me. Animation. Anyway, if you explore a bit, I'm convinced you will find it. Yeah.